Hello, friends, and welcome back to the American Pop Culture Series channel. I hope that all of you guys are having an amazing Thursday. So, on today's view, it began with Sunny being very open and transparent about her lineage and the heritage that she found out when she was a guest on the show Find Your Roots, right? And so she's always been very open and transparent about being Puerto Rican and her father being an African American. And they did a really, extensive deep dive on her ancestry and found out that on her mother's side, that they were enslavers, right? So they owned slaves, and this was, of course, way back when um, they were Spaniards who came and colonized Puerto Rico. And then on her father's side, she found out that her father's ancestors were slaves, and then they became sharecroppers. And so Sarah asked her a really poignant question. She said, how do you feel now knowing that there were slave owners, in your ancestry and your father's side, And so Sunny gave a really great answer. I really liked her answer. She said, I feel enriched, right? And I thought that that was such a smart and concise answer, because history is about the good and the bad, right? One thing I love about what the Germans have done is they have owned up to, them taking part or creating, I should say, the Holocaust in the 1930s. And they paid reparations to the Jews, they've apologized. But not only that, right? They teach German history to their children in order to, in hopes, right, to not only just educate them, but in hopes that they will not repeat those same atrocities. And so that's such a great lesson I feel like we could learn here in the US. So, yeah, Sunny said that she's enriched by knowing her history, but also knowing how far her family lineage has come. And now she's looking to her children to carry on that torch and to grow and be better for future generations. So I thought that was a beautiful answer. They invited Chris Christie back. He's been on quite a bit. But one thing I like about Chris Christie, and there's not many, I have to be honest, because I didn't like what he did when he, during the early days of COVID, and he refused injury, for everyone on the beach except for him and his family, and they were caught. But he calls out Trump in a way I feel like not a lot of Republicans do. And as I often say on this channel, I'm not a registered Democrat and I'm not a registered Republican. I am an independent, okay? And I have voted Republican for Republican candidates before in the past, presidential ones. I have voted for Democratic candidates in the past, and I've actually voted for independent ones. So I'm always looking to, you know, try to find the best candidate that I can at the time. But I will say this. To me, Donald Trump, I take him at his word, right? So when he said that he wanted to be a dictator on day one, I believe him. When he says that, well, I can't even say when he says, he did incite that insurrection on January 6th, and a lot of people's lives were ruined because of it. They were actually threatening to harm and unalive his own vice president, Mike Pence. So Chris Christie, he calls out Donald Trump because this man has been indicted 91 times. He's trying to literally overthrow American democracy. He's one of the most dangerous people in a powerful position that I can remember in my lifetime. And even Joy said that she could remember in her lifetime. She's 80 years old. So she's been here for 80 years, and 8 decades, that's a lot of time to gain wisdom. And she said that Donald Trump is hands down the most dangerous person that she's ever known in her lifetime. And so for people to turn a blind eye for the fact that he has all these crimes against him, or I take that back, indictments, right? There's 91 indictments, but he's just received the case against him Eugene Carroll, she won the defamation case against him for $83.3 million. But I mean, to me, he's someone that does not value democracy. He looks up to Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin and all these dictators. And so I feel like, he's just not good for the country. And a lot of people feel that way, including Chris Christie. So I want to let you guys hear just really quickly as they introduce him on the show from his own words, what the issue is in the Republican Party and why are they so enthralled with Donald Trump and so tethered to him.
Chris Christie.
I was very glad to see that you took a risk as a GOP candidate. And you were outspoken against Trump. It warmed my heart to see that somebody in the tent was taking him on. The others did not. But unfortunately, it did not resonate with the base at all. So you dropped out a few weeks ago. Yep. So have you had some time to reflect on this whole adventure that you were on? And is there anything you would have changed?
Nothing I would have changed.
You would have done the same thing.
Yeah. Look, it's what it shows is it's a really hard job to change a party.
Yeah.
And you can't do it by yourself. And so when you go out, as I look back on it, yes, by reflection, the biggest reflection I have is that the race in the primary was over the night of the first debate. Because it was the biggest audience we'd ever have. The people, by definition, who were watching were people who were at least willing to consider somebody else. Because if you were tied to Trump, why would you even watch? He wasn't there. And when 6 of the 8 people on the stage raised their hand and said, I will support him even if he's a convicted felon, what it told the voters was, this is okay. Being a convicted felon is okay. It's normal behavior. And when I got booed by 8,000 people for not raising my hand, right, that shows that, when you hear all these people, and I said this a number of times, in private, Republicans in the House, in the Senate, governors, all say to you, he's awful, it's an abomination, it's going to be terrible. But none of them have the guts to stand up because they love their title more than they love their country.
That's disgusting. That's disgusting. We've said that.
So, yeah, like Sunny was saying, we've said that, Alyssa shaking her head, yes, she's nodding yes. Everyone agrees, including the audience. So that's a very astute, account or insider, information about the Republican Party from a member of the Republican Party, that people behind closed doors, they know that he is a threat. They know that he is a danger to this country, but they love their titles more than they love this country. And that is such a disservice, right? Because everyone in Congress was voted there to be representative of their constituents, right? And so if they're unable to do that, honestly, then that's a huge problem. I feel like a lot of people were misled in the information that they received from Fox News and allegedly, right, from other sites. But Fox News, they were sued by Dominion Voting Systems after spreading that lie about, them rigging the election and the election essentially being stolen, right? That's the big lie that people have just been, they've just believed it, unfortunately. And so I'm glad that Chris Christie said what he said. I'm glad that he said it on national TV, on The View, because he speaks truth to power. And so my hope is that people will listen to Chris Christie and listen to, Alyssa, and listen to essentially all of the ladies, right, on The View, and other places, other people in their lives, right, that can view Donald Trump as someone who is really thirsty for power, in my opinion, but he doesn't have the country's best interest. Now, I will agree with Chris Christie. I would have loved to have someone else be the Republican presidential candidate, right? I would love, to be honest with you guys, I would love for someone else other than Joe Biden to be the Democratic presidential nominee. I don't want to revisit another presidential, debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. We've already had it in it, almost tore this country apart. You know what I mean? And I feel like, to be honest, people are talking about their age, and I don't want to be someone who, age shames anyone. I haven't reached, their ages yet. So I think it's a blessing to live a long, prosperous life. And both of these men have. But cognitively, you can tell that age is, they're both aging, and they're both the two oldest presidents in our nation's history. There has never been a president that has been older than Donald Trump until Joe Biden. And then now there's never been a president older than Joe Biden. I feel like both of them really should retire and pass the baton, but they're not going to do that. So this is where we are. And, November will be here before you know it. So I want to hear from you guys. What do you think about what Chris Christie said? What do you think about our two presidential, candidates going forward, Donald Trump or Joe Biden? I'd love to hear from you. Please be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already, and I will talk with you in the next one. Take care, guys. Bye.